Hello and welcome here in Melbourne. Yeah, lockdown, look at it. We're all in our own homes again. But welcome to Meet the Creators, because tonight we've got an absolute rip snorter. But before we get into it, I actually want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we're working from here in Melbourne, the Wurundjeri and the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. And we pay our respects to elders past and present, and to all the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are from all nations of the land, and particularly the gorgeous three we have here tonight. So welcome everybody. I reckon we're going to start with collaboration, because the theme of tonight's discussion is, and I reckon we can all as an audience tell when a show's not quite working and that someone's missing or something's missing in a show. So first up, let's welcome our guests. Amazing director Beck, whose work is extraordinary. Producer, writer, and an actor, Aaron Fartho, who I must tell everybody booked his flights to come to Melbourne 2 weeks before the event was supposed to happen. God, I wish you'd come and we could have done it 2 weeks ago, but lovely to see you all the way up in Cairns. Paul Walton, director, producer, and all sorts of things as well. And the gorgeous writer, Samuel Nuggan Paynter. Hi, Sam. Lovely to see you. Right. I'm going to ask on a whip around here. What's your tips on a good collaboration? Beck, ladies first.
I think you have to find people that you can tolerate, first and foremost. Friends. Collaboration is friendship.
Okay, Aaron.
I think I'll just have to reiterate what Beck just said. I mean, I think good collaboration is basically getting each other, but also accepting each other's warts and all, and respecting each other's differences, because that's the strength of the team, is that you actually offer each other a point of difference. You actually complement each other's weaknesses, and I think that's key. But also the big thing is respect is a big thing. But getting each other and owning each other's differences.
Well, Paul and Aaron, you've worked together on a recent project. We're going to talk about that. So, Paul, what's your tip for good collaboration? Not just with Aaron, because that would be easy.
Well, everything that Beck and Aaron said. Yeah. I also think it's about letting go of your own personal agenda and finding a common purpose that you all agree to. I think that's key.
Sam, you're a newbie in this in a way, but you've already had to collaborate in all sorts of different situations. So what have you learnt so far?
Don't be precious about things. Just be open to be challenged and learn and go through the process, I think. And, that trust, everything that Aaron, Beck and Paul said is exactly right. That trust, really investing in someone, and yeah.
Perfect.
Caught up on shit.
Well, we're going to explore some of those in more detail very soon. But I thought we'd start with, because there's loads of clips to play, because, anybody who knows me loves a good clip, because it's so much more interesting to bounce a discussion off. Beck, you were talking about directors and writers and actors all working together on black comedy. So I thought we'd start off with a clip with Mr. Fartho in it as well. Let's have a look at this clip.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Demon. In the name of all that is holy, you have a cousin.
A cousin?
A demon that enters your home uninvited. A creature of filth and sloth. And endless unpaid loans.
I thought they were just a myth.
Did the cousin look familiar?
Vaguely. Like a cousin I might have met at my Auntie Laurel's funeral.
How'd he find us?
Phone books, internet. Who knows how cousins work? But how to get in here? One of you open the door. One of you let it in.
Wow. Now I'm freezing a lot. That's the lockdown penalty, so I'm being told. So if I freeze, just carry right on. But Beck and Aaron, why don't you talk about that collaboration of working as writers and and producers and directors together?
Take it away, Az.
Yeah, look, I think black comedy was a unique, I guess, platform and unique, I guess, series and production, because I think it was one that we felt we owned, because it was the first time that an Indigenous or First Nations comedy series was our own, and I think that's, you know, everyone invested in that, and I think there was no bullshit. Well, from my own experience, there was no bullshit about it. There was we actually collaborated, you know, with the writers as a performer, but also in particularly with the directors as well. And I think I had so much, and I'm not just saying this and just because Beck's, we're on the panel with Beck, but I think we actually cemented a really great performer, acting, and director relationship through that particular series. I think it was like three or four seasons that Beck, you know, was at the helm of black comedy as a director, and through that period of time, we were able to really kind of develop a strong performing relationship and a lot of trust. So by the end, you know, by second season, third season, we've got a shorthand, and it was extremely collaborative, because I think the writers were also performers as well. So we were able to, if we wanted to change something or offer something, and I've got to say, when we offered something as performers, that the writers were also, or the key creatives were also open to. But I think that that relationship as a performer and as a director, and Beck was also in the, you know, part of the editing process as well. So you actually saw this, you were part of this whole process. It was quite collaborative. So by the end of it, you saw what was the finished product, but you were a part of, you know, beginning, or, you know, the middle and end, so to speak. You saw what was actually punched out. So you could trust in the end that Beck was actually, because, you know, performers can get in their own heads and performers can get, you know, it's all about me stuff. But you could trust that, you know, you were all on the same page, and a lot of bullshit was just left to the, you know, you just cut through all the bullshit, which is really important. And you got to what we were there for, is actually just making good product.
Beck, how was it for you?
Oh, look, I think The Casuist is one of my personal favourite sketches, because that was season 3. And by that point, we definitely hit our stride. And I think Az and I are both sort of ratbags and with really stupid senses of humour. So we connect anyway. But I think also the thing that was so fabulous, from my opinion, about black comedy was that it demanded that the actors and the writers be super brave, because ultimately it's about taking the piss out of yourselves. And we really didn't know how it was going to land with an audience, you know, because it's quite sensitive kind of, you know, material, some of it, saying big statements in silly ways, which was a really powerful thing to do. And, you know, I think because we were just basically shooting like, I don't know, 50 short films over the space of a couple of weeks, the pressure was on and we had to bloody work super duper fast. So I think I certainly learned a lot, and I know that Az did. And there was a number of, I think what was interesting about that show too was that it was to sort of mine out really interesting new talent, not young talent, but, you know, new emerging voices. So there was all sorts of people of all ages from right across the country. And I think that was the most interesting collaborative thing about the show, really, was that it was sort of designed to find new people to expand our industry.
And on that, I mean, I think I was challenged constantly, and I know there's about 3 or 4 sketches that where I was extremely challenged, and I think Beck directed all of them. So she was she had the pleasure of pushing and stretching Aaron Farso. Even when Aaron Farso was adamant he wasn't going to go there, but eventually I gave over, because at the end of the day it's a collaborative process and it's about the team, and there's no iron team. But no, Beck was, and I've got a soft spot for her, so in terms of pushing in those directions too.
I think mostly when we're talking about that, Denise, we're talking about the Titters sketches, which obviously was really a totally left of field role, I think, for Aaron, playing against Stephen Oliver and doing stuff that was pretty out there a lot of the time. So yeah, we learned a lot about each other very quickly, and limitations and how to manipulate each other in a healthy way.
Well, in the end, there were no limitations, right?
Don't have them.
But you said it there as well, Beck, because you said it, Aaron, about trust, and trust and safety go hand in hand. And for actors, you know, it's you're constantly putting yourself out there, and you've got nowhere to hide. And a lot of crew forget that. And so if you can create this bubble of trust, then you do take risks, and then you are prepared to go beyond your comfort zone. And then as an audience member, especially with comedy, you get that sense. It's like watching circus. You're like, are they going to fall? You know, with comedy, you've got that sense of danger. And so you need that risk taking, and you need to be able to let the performers trust in the directors and the crew. Like when you watch really great sketch comedy, you feel so privileged to be a part of it as an audience member, because it's like, oh, you're a part of this secret that these guys are all having so much fun and making each other laugh, and you get to witness that. And that comes from a real safe space and almost a celebration of the work, rather than doing it because you've got to deliver something. It's just like, we're going to do this regardless of whether you're watching, and so come along for the ride. So that trust thing's so important.
Yeah, I think that's the trick that Beck played on me. This is like, look, you know what? No one's going to see this, so you may as well just go all the way with this. No, I'm only joking. But no, look, she definitely look. And you know, I'm an alpha male, and you know, and when we talk about those particular sketches, I mean, you know, I was actually pushed and stretched, but it was actually that safety and that trust. And then after that, you know, it was like,
rocked it.
Throw me whatever you want, Beck. We're ready to roll.
There is a question from Janet in the audience. I'd like to know what pushed Aaron most. What was the hardest to do? Or has Beck already explained it with Titus? Or what was the hardest for you to do in that show? What you talked about pushing you.
Oh, look, there was a couple of kind of full-on scenes there where, you know, where it was certainly there was Titters can't root, so you know I'm actually, you know, full throttling and rogering Stephen Oliver, and like, you know, I think by the end of that, I think my family certainly wanted to know, you know, some questions after seeing that episode, or if there was anything that, you know, perhaps I wanted to tell them. But I'll say, no, it's all good. It's all acting. So lucky you guys. But also, you know, it was, you know, the titter wedding, and you know, they were challenging. You know, these were challenging scenes and challenging. It was a challenging role.
And just for people who, I just got another question through. Can you just briefly explain a little bit more about Titters to those? I loved it. I thought it was bloody amazing, but just explain it to those watching who may not know.
Oh, I think I'll hand that one over to Beck.
Oh, right. So the Titters are two First Nations, Aboriginal gay men who are super competitive, and they run into each other in all sorts of situations and challenge each other to the point of basic hysteria and hysterics. So
Thank you.
It's all over YouTube.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's just, I love
good.
black comedy. I was so pleased we could talk about it tonight. It was just such a great, I mean, and it was a very evolutionary program for Aboriginal Australia, as you were talking about, Aaron, that it was the first comedy.
Absolutely. I mean, like you've got, like we're gonna, like we're actually celebrating, and we're having, we're celebrating two gay men, but we actually celebrate, their wedding. And I don't think you've ever seen a gay wedding celebrated so openly on a national television platform ever before. And this was just pre-gay, pre the whole,
gay marriage.
Gay marriage. So I think we certainly lent into that by default, or, not even, I mean, it may have been, skewed that way, but it was something that we just did.
It felt right and you did it, yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight was sort of apparently there's lots of black comedy crew and staff watching live. So that's awesome. You better give them a wave, Aaron and Beck. I wanted to talk to you about cross-cultural collaboration, and Aaron, I'm going to, pick up on Straight to the Plate and Paul Walton, who is here obviously tonight as well. Aaron, what led you two to collaborate? And Paul, I'll come to you on that as well.
I think it started off just a conversation we had as part of Media Ring, just outside, and I think we actually connected in the room, but I guess it was conversations that we had outside of the room. And I kind of, I said, man, I think you're someone that I wouldn't mind working with. I think I'm going to, because I'm pretty cool with you, I think. And I think once we got Straight to the Plate going, I knew that I was short of a producer. Someone that actually could just kind of assist me in the back end, but also take a bit of a load off, because I was. It looked, it was evident that I was not only going to be producing the series, but I was absolutely also going to be driving and propelling it and be in front of the camera as well. So
sorry.
So, and then I reached out to Paul, and lucky enough that old mate was available, and I think I'll just hand it over to Paul, and he can take it up from there.
Well, I mean, we were on the board of Media Ring together.
What's Media Ring for people who don't know?
So Media Ring is this like a reconciliation action group for the media. So really trying to facilitate strong, robust conversations, but also to make actual action happen as well. So just to build it into the way we do things. So not to just talk about it, but actually to create action. And I think the plan is, as we move forward, and that does become more and more a part of our process, is to become a resource for anybody that wants to sort of find new ways to work, or cross collaboration. But we would actually sit, Aaron's alpha, as he said, so he always takes the head of the table, right? So I was always sort of down the side somewhere, and we were sort of looking at each other, but we were having these conversations, and when you just catch someone's eye and you think, we're going to work, there's something going to happen here. And so we just had great conversations outside the meetings. And then Aaron rang me up. He says, I've got a bit on. I've got to get this show up. I was like, when do you need it? And it was like a week away. And so we were like, right, let's get up, let's make it happen. Because I think that's really what collaboration is. It's, that whole idea of this might never work, let's make it work. And so that's what Aaron and I have always had, that attitude together, regardless of what backgrounds we come from. And weirdly enough, as we sort of got to know each other more and more, we realized that, Aaron's upbringing so different from mine, but similar in that I grew up in a small village in Yorkshire, and you know, we had that same, like, everyone knows everyone's business, and you've got to find different ways. You know, you don't just go up and knock on someone's door. You got to find ways of respecting where everybody is in the sort of hierarchy of the system and the culture or whatever. And so we just found a common language in a way, didn't we, Aaron?
We sure did. And
Well,
yeah, you wanted to say something, Denise?
of course. No, I'd love to play a clip because I know that there's loads of people who haven't seen the show, and it's bloody awesome, and it's on SBS On Demand. And so, NITV. I'm NITV show on SBS On Demand. So let's play a clip of it, and then we can talk in a little bit more detail.
There's no better way to understand a people than through their food. So I'm going on a journey to uncover the secrets of Torres Strait cooking. Oh, this is all making me hungry. It's where it should be cooked, right next to the beach. It tastes like a scallop.
This one got 20 chili, the other bowl got 40 chili, and the other one's hot.
And then we kaikai this part of the skin here.
It's like flour.
Abita's kitchen.
Purum kulka, we call them.
People pay big money for this.
I'm speechless. It's incredible.
Woo!
Yeah! And onto the fry pan. Come with me.
Tyson menu! Tyson menu!
And let's go explore the people, culture, language, and way of life of the Torres Strait.
I've been run with my grandmother.
We sing to bring good crops.
2 whole pigs. People call them tilmit.
Yummy, Kuma.
You will return to Torres Strait.
Lots of family and lots of laughter.
Here, my grandson got big muscle.
Yo! I'm Aaron Farso. This is Straight to the Plate.
You just have to watch it. The joy and the passion in that show. And your grandmother, oh my God, I bloody love her. Big muscles. She's gorgeous. But it's a really fantastic show. So what were the sorts of things that you two, as a production team, had to work on to make it a successful collaboration? Because I mean, it was a new culture to you, Paul, and there's lots of learnings and, you know, things that you have to do there. But talk to me, both of you, about what it involved.
Look, I think from the outset, everything that media ring kind of stands for, I think we wanted to put in practice. So it's like best practice. So, you know, we've got these two worlds, these two people come together, these two practitioners come together and actually, okay, who's best at doing what? Okay, you take care of what you do well, I'll take care of what I do well, but at the same time, let's support one another. And knowing that, you know, most of the time I'm like a Swiss Army knife. So trying to mitigate or trying to lend support or support around myself because, you know, given that, you know, the Torres Strait is, and Torres Strait practitioners and so forth, I mean, there's a lot of cultural sensitivities going into consultation and so forth. So a lot of that work I needed to drive. So whatever I could alleviate and you know, give off to Paul to you know, deal with the production logistics or the business side of production in terms of with the broadcaster, with the screen agencies. He was happy to drive and then delegate with our team because I knew what I needed to do. And without the creative side and without getting the Torres Strait signed off and signed up, we didn't have a show. Yeah. We would have just Ebony and Ivory singing at a piano. You know, two bald fellas, black fella, white fella. But
what about for you, Paul? Was it a big learning curve for you, Paul?
Oh, look, it was a huge learning curve in lots of ways, but I think I was so lucky to, when I was at Princess Pictures, to have had the experience of working on AFFRS and realizing I knew nothing. And because I will never understand what it means to, I say the weight of community, I don't mean it in a heavy way, but I just will never understand what that means and how you have to navigate that space. And so I just sort of let go of, I really wanted to understand it, but I let go of the needing to get it, if that makes sense. And so all I needed to do and all I wanted to do was support Aaron, and know in the same way that when I was a first AD, I wanted to support the actors and make sure that there was support around them and support for the director, and that we were the guardians of the story and what we'd all agreed on. And so for me with Aaron, it was like, you know, when I was getting calls from the production team saying, we really need to be shooting this now, and I knew that Aaron was sitting down with the community leaders and having a conversation face to face, which doesn't fit into a call sheet or a schedule or a spreadsheet, but is important and has to happen. So my job really was to dance between the sort of traditional ways of doing things in a traditional filmmaking, out of the manual way, and the traditional way in which Aaron needed to operate on, in the community. And so I think that was a big steep learning curve, but I don't think Aaron and I we never raised our voices with each other. We always support each other. I was just sort of playing. It was a dance, really. And I got to take my hat off to Sam, who was our sort of series producer, and Nick McInerney, who was just an amazing director. And even introducing Nick to Aaron, I sort of knew what Aaron needed as a producer, as a creator, as a writer, as a performer, and as someone going into that region to make a show with his family. I think that's the other thing. It's not just like we were hiring a location. These are his family. I remember watching the rushes one day and seeing Aaron stand back and wait to be given permission to stir the pot. And that just told me so much. It just told me so much about the culture. It told me so much about Aaron, who is an alpha, but also respects and loves his culture so much. And so I was like, right, okay, I need to love it. I used to say when I was a first AD, I need to fall in love with the leading man or the leading lady in order to get through the film. And so I just had to fall in love with Aaron, and I just had to do whatever I needed to do to make sure that he could follow and deliver the dream that he had to make the show. And that was my job, really.
Aaron, it was obviously successful in the sense you've got a brilliant show to air. There's a question from the audience which works here. Can you collaborate with anybody if you don't automatically connect with them or find a way of connecting?
Great question.
Nah. Like I think they've got to speak to you. I mean, I think the two souls. I think it's on a spiritual level. It can be on a total business level, and look, you got your strengths and I got my strengths, and logically it all makes sense. But I think if this to work, I think it's a meeting of the souls and it's a meeting of the spirits, and that's no Harry Potter stuff either that I'm talking about. I think this is it's real stuff, because when we're out on country, I mean, it's spiritual 24/7. You got the environment, you've got the cosmos, you've got the land and sea, and you've got your totemic kinships, totems speaking to you on every day on an everyday level. So I think if it's the meeting of the souls. I mean, any good partnerships, there's many great examples out there of great partnerships and business partnerships that have worked, and it's because they've, the yin and the yang have become together and become as one. And I think to answer your question, no, you can't. I don't think you can. And I'm happy to be proven wrong.
Beck and ever patient Sam sitting there. I want to talk to you about a very different collaboration, but it picks up on a lot of the things that that we've been talking about so far. And you're just in the midst of an amazing collaboration with a whole bunch of filmmakers from Aotearoa New Zealand on a project about Captain Cook. Sam, I'm going to come to you first. Tell me about the project and, like, it sounds incredible. What is it?
And it starts, so it actually started off as like an initiative through Screen Australia's Indigenous Department. So myself and Beck put in to start the initiative, but through the development process, we kind of realised it was going to be something bigger. So it was for, Indigenous Australian filmmaking teams and for Māori and Pacifica teams. And yeah, through the development, kind of we come together, and kind of that first workshop we kind of knew it was something bigger, because it wasn't just a bunch of creatives coming together to talk. We were exchanging cultural knowledge, and we were exchanging, stories and ideas, as well as, that professional level of things that you need to do to make a film. So from there, the collaboration really kind of took off, and through development, we decided, we're going to make one film with all of these stories interconnected and coming through together, instead of just 8 short films in a traditional kind of anthology sense. And
So Beck, it did start out, as Sam saying, about the sort of 8 individual films. How did it evolve? Was that part of the sort of collaboration that occurred?
Well, a couple of things happened. Firstly, it was, called Right of Reply, and it was to, recognise 250 years of Cook circumnavigating Australia or some shit. And we immediately went, nah, not interested in that. So I think it was a really interesting, clever way of Screen Australia just to create a feature film that brings Australia in collaboration with New Zealand filmmakers or Māori filmmakers. So that happened. And I think immediately it was just like, all right, there's eight films, and how can we match them up thematically? And then we wanted to make something that wasn't just like a short film festival where you're watching separate films, but something that's bigger than that with a bigger meaning. So I think Sam and I were, had a lot to say in the fact that we really wanted it to be something truly collaborative. So yeah, and look, and it's still in the making. So it's still, all the films are being shot now. So really, who does know what will end up being experimental, right?
And you're the overarching director for the film, aren't you? That must be an amazing challenge.
Yeah, well, I directed a chapter that Sam has written. So we've just finished that. And now I come in and basically help direct the edit. So each of the directors has edited their own components. It takes 65,000 years to talk about this because it's been a long process. But it's a long story short, it's
only 200 years. Only 200.
250.
251.
No.
Yeah. But no, look, it's So Sam's one of the filmmakers that's written a chapter. I've come in, directed his, and now I'm kind of helping the other directors put it all together in the end.
Okay. Now, Sam, your episode was called Grog Shop, and I know it came out of a collaboration between you and Beck. How did she work with you? Was she quite good to work with, or did you have a bit of a shit fight from time to time? I think you might have said you had the odd scrap.
No, I think, like I said before, I kind of, coming, I'm like the new kid on the block. So when you first start, and you're like, oh, my stories are dope and precious and everything's great, but you got to be open to be like, well, actually, it's not. So Beck kind of helped me pull my head in a couple of times, and I think that opened the door to have some proper creative conversations that ended up helping the final script and helping, the film together. And it says written by Samuel Paynter, but really me and Beck conceived the story together and kind of just through these kind of conversations. So it definitely was a collaborative effort from the start. And we actually came up with the idea at the first kind of meeting of us all together, because we both came in with separate things. But then we were there, and then it was like, I think it was like a writing challenge or something, just a creative activity. And then the idea spawned, and then we run with it to, talk about something that's a real issue and something that's kind of dear to both our hearts.
Yeah, so tell us, I know it's called The Grog Shop, but tell me the story of it and the impact that it had on the Māori filmmakers who were there too, because I think you said they were pretty bloody shocked by
Be a bit careful, I think, because it's a bit of a story with a bit of a twist. So I don't want to give too much away.
No, don't give in. Can you talk in a little broad brush, or would you rather not go there?
I'll give the broad brush strokes. It's kind of, well, we thought it was general knowledge in terms of kind of how I'll spit some facts and then we'll go from there. So it's in the Northern Territory. There's liquor laws at every single bottle shop that you go to. So if you go in, you have to show your ID to purchase alcohol, but then that doesn't guarantee that you're going to be able to leave with that alcohol. And, something that, we've both been Aboriginal from Alice Springs, but especially as a young man kind of coming in, if the cop doesn't like the look of you, he'll take your grog off you. So we kind of wanted to write a story about that, I guess, is the broad strokes. And
just it's blatant racism, shameless, blatant racism that exists in our hometown. And Sam and I have that in common. We both come from Alice, and we're both just fed up with living in the bloody back in the old days in a town in 2021 in Alice Springs. So and trying to find a way to tell that story with comedy and with a bit of romance.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll look forward to that. We won't give away too much. I can't wait. Sam, I suppose the last question on that particular bit what was the sort of cultural learnings or collaboration that you had to do across cultures within that project?
Yeah, so like I said, we kind of identified pretty early that if we're going to be 8 filmmaking teams that come together to all collaborate on one feature, even though we're doing our individual stories, we'll need to, exchange some type of thing. So right from the start, the Māori filmmakers would sing, and they'd really be deadly and kind of including us in all of their prayers and everything that they would do in their kind of traditional customs, as would we back. And through that, we kind of became one solid unit. And even though we were making 8 stories, we all were, on the same plane, on the same level. And, now, they're my brothers and sisters for life now. And I guess, I know Beck probably feels the same. She can probably speak on it a bit more.
Do you want to add to that, Beck?
Look, I just think it's been a long time coming, because we're all sort of so similar and we've all got so many links anyway. Same as like Torres Strait Islander communities. So it's just that little bit further. And I was just really exciting because it's the first time that First Nation filmmakers in this region have really collaborated. And I'm so proud that Sam and I have been a part of it, really. Yeah.
Great. Now, Sam, I want to talk to you a little bit about being a newbie on production, because there's a lot in the audience who'll be going, oh my God, I've got my first gig and I'm bloody terrified. So I'm just going to play a little clip from Little J and Big Cuz. Again, another wonderful NITV show. And we'll talk to you about how you came into that and what it all felt like. Can we play that clip, please?
Everywhere I go, everything I see, the whole wide world is smiling at me. Oh, now everybody's singing out. Wah, 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 wah. Ooh. Wah, 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 wah.
I love it. My granddaughter absolutely loves that show. She's totally besotted. But you came on board as a writer attachment. Was that how you came on, Sam?
Yeah. So I started off as a writer's attachment in the season 2 writer's room that came about because I was, absolutely unknown, but I was working with Beck. She was just kind of helping me out with some stuff. And then she said to Ned Lander, one of the producers, I've got this young Indigenous writer who's really keen for anything. And he, to Ned's credit, he got in touch and said, oh, well, if you can get this application done tonight, we'll see if we can get you in like the next week into the room. And so me and Beck smashed out the application, got it all done. And then next thing I'm in the room, shit myself. But it was great. It was good to be there.
I feel like that every day, Sam. Every day I go to work.
And I remember you saying you had a sort of, crucial moment because you were a bit sort of freaking about sharing your ideas, but the wonderful Dot West sort of gave you a bit of encouragement when you needed it.
Yeah. So I was kind of sitting there silent, just soaking it all in. And I didn't nobody told me what I was supposed to be doing. So I just started taking notes and nobody told me to stop. So I just kept taking notes. But then I think it was like tea break or something. And I went out and I was having a cup of tea with Dot. And I said, oh, I've got this little idea I'm thinking about. And she's like, well, say something. And I was like, yeah, I will. Absolutely was not going to say anything. But then to Dot's credit, she's like, oh, Sam told me about an idea that I thought was really deadly, Sam, and put me on the spot. And then I kind of pitched it to the room, and then Claire and Ned kind of picked it up, and then I wrote the episode Footy Man and went from there. So yeah.
So I guess what you're saying to people is, Sam, is you've got to speak up.
Yeah, don't be ashamed, but also wait for the right moment to, don't just throw it down someone's throat. But yeah. No, and also, very fortunate to have the right people around me to propel me. Like, I've had a coffee with everyone here. Paul, obviously spent a long time with Beck. Humbug Aaron every time I see him. So, I've been kind of fortunate to have awesome people around me to propel me. But yeah, you got to absolutely kind of fake it until you make it and let your voice be heard, I think.
Brilliant. Thank you. We'll come back to you because I've got some other stories I want to explore with you. But I thought, Beck, I wanted to talk a little bit about Wentworth because, again, you joined that production later on in its run. Yeah, is that right?
I came on in season 7 and did 7, 8 and 9. So from 7 to the end.
Okay. Look, I'd love to play just a teensy weensy clip because why not? So can we play the Wentworth clip, please?
It will have you on the edge of your seat. You will laugh, you will cry, and obviously you can't wait to come back for the next week.
If you want to see what happens in this next series, then you'll have to tune in because my lips are sealed. I'm sure it'll be big though. Ooh. Who knows what's going to happen?
It's hard to know if we're all going to get another experience like this one, so we're all trying to kind of savour the moment, I guess.
Watch it.
Oh my God, she scares me sick every time I see Pamela Ray. But the new series is due to go, the last series is due to go to air. And one of the reasons why I played that clip is it actually shows what a bloody extraordinary production that was across all sorts of things, but particularly for telling women's stories. I mean, what was it like to sort of join in an existing production, and how did you make it work?
What was it like to join in? It was scary to join in because it was such a well-oiled machine. And I mean, I think I got the gig because I've dedicated my career to making good films featuring women, particularly Black women. And the producer, Pino, is a huge fan of Black comedy, funnily enough. So I think that's how I even got sort of noticed. But
the titters that took over the line. There was a titter.
yeah, could have been.
Well, the Black women is the Black titters.
True. But it was such a cool experience. I kind of moved down to Melbourne for it, and I've been wanting to get away from, because I'm from Alice, like I said, so get away from Alice and sort of just be brave enough to throw myself into sort of mainstream TV directing for a bit, and just push myself and, scare myself, which I've managed to do. But look, it was a fantastic experience. I was loved by everybody, taken under so many beautiful people's wings, felt so safe, like culturally safe as well. Got to work with beautiful people like Leah Purcell, wasn't the only, Black woman there. Leah Rudawoy was there. Wonderful new talent like Zoe, then legends like Susie Porter. God, it was just mind-blowingly cool.
And you were talking about Kevin Carlin and, as being incredibly generous in terms of bringing you into the process, as well as the establishing director, really, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, Kev's just gorgeous. I mean, he's just was so kind to me. And sometimes when you go onto gigs like that, people aren't always kind to you. That's unfortunately the God honest truth. Can be a ruthless sort of industry. And although I've been really lucky and had mostly excellent experiences, sometimes they're not so excellent. This was excellent.
Okay. I've got a question here actually from the audience. Is collaborating on something so big like Wentworth different to collaborating on a small project, and what's better?
God, yeah, that's a good question. What's better? Listen, I think every project's totally different. Like no two things are ever the same. And I wish I had a more interesting answer. But, you know, small projects might be the ones that you have more control and input into. Like the film that Sam and I just made feels like our film. Wentworth is not my show. You know, it's much bigger than me. I'm just a small cog in a big machine. So whilst they're both really exciting and interesting, I'll take my own sort of stories any day, quite frankly.
Paul, I'm just going to come to you on that one too, because you're working on La Brea at the moment as a location manager. Holy hell, you don't get any bigger than that.
It's massive.
And how do you collaborate when there's about 9,000 people on the team?
I think there's 8,999, but they're probably going to get an additional grip tomorrow, so that'll probably tip it over to 9,000. Look, I think I've always been someone who likes to get my dirt under my fingernails, and I think on a big one, you can't do it on a big scale, so you just got to chip a little bit off that you can influence. And I always go into every job, how can I best contribute? And so if it's a big job, like this morning, for example, the best contribution I could make was just saying hello to everybody, because everybody comes in, they're like, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to park my truck there, I've got to do that. And everyone's just in this, like this freight train's moving, and you're like, okay, the only way I'm going to keep this on the rails in any way is to humanize this moment, because in this moment, everybody is anonymous.
Yeah.
And you can feel it. And so this morning, I just like made sure I spoke to everybody and said hello to everybody. And that was my getting the dirt under my fingernails this morning. Yesterday, we were filming in National Park and we had a big, massive crew. And so my part of that was to you know, the location management team. I would say location managing is with a department of broken promises, because we go in and promise everyone everything, and then the crew come in and break the promise for you on your behalf. Not out of any, you know, they don't do it in a bad way. It's just that they're so focused on their thing, they don't look at the big picture. So yesterday was all about making sure that we respected the environment, that we reminded people that this is, you know, it's a sensitive cultural place. It's a sensitive in terms of flora and fauna. Let's just remember that today.
Yeah.
Let's just put that forefront so that we go in, we can make a great film, we can do everything that's on the call sheet, and we can make something special, but let's just remember where we are today. So that was my dirt under the fingernails yesterday. And so I think it's just about chipping it away, and when you're on a smaller project, it's bigger. The sort of circle of influence is bigger, and when you're on a big project, you just got to find a little bit that you can influence and contribute to, and that's the way but they're both as enjoyable.
Yeah. Aaron, what's your take on this? You know, which do you like, big projects, or how do you collaborate on big projects and little projects? Which do you like?
Oh, look, the bigger the better. But in saying that, I think I'll reiterate. I mean, I think Paul put it so well. I think again. And what Beck said, I'll take my project over anybody's. It's something that I've dreamt up. It's something that I've conceptualized, and it's something that I want to see the light of day, so to speak.
Yeah. Sam, you've got some of your projects coming up as well, and you've collaborated on a couple of or more now, because I know you did Thalu as well. What's your take on the productions and how best to collaborate on what you've seen so far?
I don't know, just do as you're told. No.
Good collaboration, Sam.
Yeah. No, I was I'll use Cook as an example, or Grog Shop especially, because I wrote the chapter. So I was kind of there from the start as a creative point of view, but then because I was working as a producer with No Coincidence Media, the company that produced it, and then I was kind of across it the whole way in a producing sense, so I got to see that side of it as well. And I think sometimes I had to put that different brain on to help the production whatever way was needed. And like Paul said, you know, it's the little things. Sometimes you got to go give someone a cuddle, or you know, just take a day, and anything you can to keep the wheels kind of turning, I think I've found. But yeah.
Great.
Not that I have heaps of experience, but okay.
Beck, another question we're getting some really good questions, so I'm sort of going to these because they're great. There's a lot of talk about feeling safe. Now, what practical things can people do to help create a safe environment, as you were describing when you were talking about Wentworth, but in general as well?
Yeah, look, I think there's a couple of things. Like, I think things are really changing, like particularly as a woman working in this industry, and I have for a very long time. And like I said, I've been really fortunate not to have a heap of shitty sort of experiences. But I think being surrounded by people that you trust and being in a position that you can, trusting producers, like the relationship between producers and directors and producers and writers is such an important one. And it's nobody's, I mean, I'm a real believer in that there's no such thing as a film buy. I think that's a real wank. I think no matter whether you're in catering or what you are, you're a part of the process and the team of the spirit of making a film. And I think that when you're working with people that feel that way as well and share that belief, you're immediately in a safe environment because you're with people that are going to respect you no matter what happens. And that you can go to people that you trust to say, this might have happened or this might have happened or whatever. But again, I think it just comes down to working with people that you know have great integrity and good reputations. Don't be afraid to ask about people and suss people out. Make a few phone calls. Everybody does it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. So I think that's sort of a good way to start. And also, don't give your stories away too soon. Don't go selling yourself short. Like, there's so many young emerging writers and directors that are so desperate to tell their stories that they'll just pimp themselves out. And I would tell everyone that will listen, don't do that. Trust your instincts, trust your stories, and guard yourself. Keep yourself safe.
Actually, that's a beautiful segue you've just given into me. And I was going to talk about other clips, but actually we're running out of time. And I did want to talk a little bit for newbies about how you get in and how and what sort of steps that you can take to have a career. What have you guys learned through your career? And I'm going to start with you, Sam, because you've got a 2-year placement with No Coincidence, which is brilliant and funded by Screen Australia. But how did you get interested in this? I know you told me your mum was a short story writer, and was that the beginning for you?
Yeah, I think I've gone way back. I kind of always liked, stories. I think blackfellas are natural storytellers, and you grow up, your uncles and aunties and grandmas, grandpas telling you lore and stuff. So I think it kind of stemmed from there, but also mum, definitely helped nurture that kind of muscle to be exercised. And yeah, I think as I got older and, realised I can't work at Macca's for the rest of my life, I, decided I'm going to start chasing. And I just really chased every opportunity that kind of came up. And it's like that thing where, you open one door and then 3 more are there, and it's that kind of follow-on effect. So like I said, I've been fortunate to have all these people help propel me in my career, but I do feel that that's happening because of the doors that I've opened, and you just got to chase it down. And like, I never even knew what producing was until I heard about the RPP program, and I thought, okay, let me give this a crack. And now I can't see myself doing anything else.
Because you did go via social working, which again was something that was really important to you as well.
Yeah. So I was working as a case manager for kind of at-risk Aboriginal youth when the program was announced, and I was kind of writing on the side. And I thought, this, might be a good opportunity to try and combine both skills in a creative sense and do something full-time that I love. And I was fortunate enough to, be successful. And now I'm just keeping going and still just keeping my finger on the pulse and applying for anything, grabbing anyone I can for a coffee who wants to listen, and just really chasing down the opportunities. Like, you got to be aggressive sometimes, but also be respectful, obviously, of people's privacy. But everyone's up for a chat. You just got to say g'day, and if you're not an arsehole, someone will say g'day back.
That's good advice. I like that. Paul, I'm coming to you next. What's your advice? Because you were a child actor, and going way back before most of the people on this panel were born, but apart from me, of course. But no, you were a child actor. That's how you got in.
Yeah, 1981
Paul's younger than me.
was my first day on a film set.
Everybody.
Can you believe that? Yeah, I am. Yeah, anyway, I think, and congratulations, Sam. I think that's such an amazing opportunity and you've earned it. I would say creating, we've used a few words. We've used investment, we've used trust, safety, equity. And I think if you can create opportunities for all those three things to happen, I think people will invest in you. I think creative people are so generous. They're so generous. But equally, they sniff out bullshit really quickly. And so if you come in pushing things and thrusting your stuff towards them, they're like, well, there's no room for mine. And so I think if you can create an environment or a conversation that's two-way, I've had conversations with everyone here and you come away feeling good because you've had a chance to contribute, you've listened to them and you've found something that you maybe will come off something down the track or immediately or whatever, it doesn't matter. But you both come away feeling good. Whereas if someone just thrusts stuff at you all the time, you come away feeling a little bit dirty and a little bit used. So, just when you're asking for opportunities or when you're, you want to go and work on something or work with something, don't just take, just give something back. I think that, and then the generous creative will give you something in return. That would be my advice. I hope that's not too ambiguous.
No, it's quite, I think it's appropriate. I'm just getting feedback here. There's been so much love on our chat for this session. So you guys are bloody rip snorters, but I've got a couple more things to do before we finish up. And one of them, Beck, you started out as a journalist. Your dad was really prominent in Karma. What was the mission, I guess, that you had? And more importantly, I guess, is how would you encourage kids today to have a mission like you've got?
Yeah. Right.
Quite a big question, really.
That's a big question.
Yeah. Holy shit.
You got this.
You're up for this.
Yeah. Right. Wait. No, listen, I think the thing for my personal mission is just to continue learning. I think you never stop learning. Like I'm loving doing animation, drama, writing, just everything. You never stop learning. So, my big mission, of course, was to just help get more Indigenous stories on the screen. I feel like we've collectively as a community achieved that. And now I think the mission is just to make a living, big mission, but B, mostly just to continue to enjoy and to challenge myself and to make work as good as it can be. You know what I mean? Like you just can't get lazy. This is an industry that just is so exciting and addictive because it never gets boring. And no matter as many times as you're on Skid Row, and trust me, there's a few of those times, you always keep pushing through. So just, it's something that you love, that boring old saying that if you love your job, you're not working, whatever. That's not even it, but something along those lines. I think that's the mission, just to be happy and challenge yourself.
Perfect. Aaron, as the alpha, I've got to give you the last word in this session, lovely. How did you get in?
I'm touching my feminine side.
Fair enough, darling. Bring them both to the table.
We'll always do.
What's your advice for people who want to be like you? I know you're irreplaceable, but how can they get to do what you do? Producer, writer, actor, alpha male, the whole goddamn thing. It's gorgeous. So how do they do what you do?
Oh, look, thanks, Denise. Those very generous words and words of encouragement and inspiration. But look, seriously, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my forebearers. They paved the way. And when I say they, in particular, my immediate family, who were were responsible of that small group of 22, 25 people that decided to leave Saibai Island in 1947 and, you know, trek their way and sail their way to where we now know the place of Bamaga and Saisia on the mainland, who they sought consultation with the Gurang, Yarakanu and the Angamuti people. But yeah, I mean, without taking that first decision, so what I'm saying is I'm a beneficiary of a decision that was made back in 47. So that example and the example that my forebearers have typified, I've basically just tried to take that and push into, you know, providing a space and place for the next generation, but also for myself, and to actually, you know, be able to be in a position whereby I'm telling their stories, celebrating their lives, and celebrating, you know, the Torres Strait, but also the Cape York stories as well. So my advice would be is 1, be self-aware. 2, know what you bring to the table in terms of what you value add. Never come from a place of deficit. Know that you've got something to bring to the table. 3, be humble. 2, be courageous. 5, be fearless. And 6, never be afraid to fight. Never be afraid to, you know, sometimes shit's going to get dirty, and but know when to walk away as well sometimes. But yeah, but never be afraid to fight for the voice and your own integrity.
Oh my God, I love you all. This has been such a gorgeous conversation. Honestly, I just feel quite weepy at the end of it, listening to all this. So I want to thank you all incredibly for your generous stories tonight. I've bloody loved it. And it sounds like from the feedback from our audience that they have too. And I do want to thank again AFTRS and Film Beck and ACMI. And God knows when this blasted lockdown's finished, we'll be able to all get back in person, because honestly, I just feel like a bloody big group hug after this. So I just want to say thank you. And in the next week or next 2 weeks' time, there's another one of these coming from AFTRS, and they're talking about the New Zealand feature film called Cousins, which is, I just can't wait to see that. It's an extraordinary Māori story from New Zealand. So watch out for that. And our next one in about 3 weeks or a month from now is with writers. And one of the writers we've got is the extraordinary Kitty Flanagan. So she's got loads to share. So thanks again, gorgeous people. Thanks again, Australia. It was bloody awesome. See you all later. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, Denise.
Bye.
Bye.
Gotcha.